Hello and welcome to today's lesson where we're looking at the expectancy theory of motivation. Now, this theory attempts to explain why people behave the way they do in the workplace. So, are you the sort of person who shows up at the office early, works really hard and stays late? And if you are this type of person, why do you behave this way? Well, maybe it's because in return you expect and want to be promoted quickly and given pay rises. Now, expectancy theory basically states that a person behaves the way they do because they're motivated to select that behavior ahead of other behaviors because of what they expect the result of that behavior to be. Now, as managers, expectancy theory can help you to understand how individual team members make decisions about alternative behaviors they have available to them. And you can then use this information as an input for creating motivated employees. So, expectancy theory was developed by Victor H. Vroom in 1964, and actually it was later extended by guys called Porter and Lawler in 1968. Now, the theory is based on the assumption that our behavior is based on making a conscious choice from a set of possible alternative behaviors. According to expectancy theory, the behavior we choose will always be the one that maximizes our pleasure and minimizes our pain. Now, as a manager, this means that one of your team members will only choose to work hard if they perceive the outcome of choosing this option is the most desirable for them. Now, in simple terms, that could mean that they might gain something or that they might lose something. Now, within expectancy theory, there are three variables involved. And the first is expectancy, and the second is instrumentality, and the third is valence. And we'll cover what these mean in a second. But all three factors must be present to motivate employees effectively. Now, the terminology and the symbols used are a little clunky and they can be difficult to make sense of at first, but don't despair. The examples we'll go through should make this fairly clear. So let's look at what each of expectancy, instrumentality, and valence mean in turn. So expectancy is the belief that if you work hard, so if you put in the effort, that you will be able to hit your targets, and your targets are your performance level, that have been set for you by your manager. So you make this judgment based on a number of factors, including, your past experience, your confidence in your ability, how difficult you perceive the target is to achieve, and whether or not the target is under your control. Now, instrumentality is your assessment of how likely you are to receive a reward if you do hit the targets that have been set for you. Now, again, you make this judgment based on a number of factors. So you take into account things like, is the relationship clear between your performance and the reward you'll receive? How much do you trust the person who decides on the reward? How transparent is the decision-making process around who gets what rewards? So finally, we have valence. So far we have a goal to hit, and we understand the reward we'll get if we hit that goal. So the final piece of the motivation puzzle is valence. And valence is simply the perceived value of the reward to you. Now, this could be negative if you actually want to avoid the reward. It could be 0 if you're just uninterested or unmotivated by the reward. Or it could be positive if you are motivated by the reward. Now, when it comes to valence, an employee will have to weigh up the pros and cons. So for example, you might think, do I want to be promoted? Will the extra work result in even less time with my family? Is it really worth putting in a serious effort for a whole year to receive a promotion and a 10% pay rise? So expectancy theory can be summed up in this formula where motivational force equals expectancy times instrumentality times valence. Now, MF simply means motivational force, which you can think of as being someone's motivation to do something. So the higher MF is, the higher the value of MS, the more motivated you're going to be. Now, this formula is simply stating what we've already covered, and that is, to be motivated, you must think that your targets are achievable, you must clearly understand any reward you might receive, and you must actually value the reward. So, how can you use this model? Well, as a manager, you can use the model to help motivate your team. Expectancy theory can help us to understand how individual team members make decisions about behavioral alternatives in the workplace. Now, the biggest takeaways from expectancy theory are: rewards must be linked directly to performance. How a person's reward is chosen should be transparent. Rewards should be deserved, and rewards should be wanted. So with that, let's examine a couple of examples of using expectancy theory in practice. So in this first example, we're going to look at a new manager, and the scenario is that you're the new manager of a small team, and that small team has a history of underachievement. So you're looking to get to the root cause of this underperformance and start your new team off on the right foot under your management. So in terms of actions, after speaking with individual members of your team and then to the team as a whole, you realize that your team is suffering from very low morale. Now, primarily you discover this is because they feel their targets are unrealistic, but also because they feel that if they do work hard to achieve something, it's the company that benefits and not them. So the team also has low trust in management. So this is a really tricky situation to address and one that can't be remedied overnight. So you decide that some quick wins might be a way to begin to turn things around and start to build your team's trust in you. So to this end, you start to set targets for the team to hit each week, week after week. Now, if the target is hit, then there's an immediate reward for the team. They're each given some extra spending money for the weekend, for example. But if the target isn't hit, then they don't get the reward. So using short-term rewards related to your team's performance, this helps you to achieve a few things. So firstly, you keep the team focused on their performance. And secondly, you build the team's trust in you by them seeing that you stick to your word week after week after week after week. So let's look at a second example. So this time we're trying to boost an existing team's performance. So here the scenario is that you've been in your position as manager of a small team for some time, and your team does good work and it performs well, but you want to boost their performance even further. So in this scenario, one approach, one action you could take would be to improve the rewards on offer by tailoring them to each individual's needs. So for example, a person with a long commute may appreciate the opportunity of a day working from home if they hit their targets. Another person who is highly ambitious may appreciate the opportunity to lead a small project next month or next quarter if they hit their targets this quarter. So thus, each person will see high productivity as a means to hitting their personal goals. And so they'll be far more likely to invest more effort and determination into their job and hitting their targets. So as you can see, we can create highly motivated and high-performing teams by tailoring rewards to the needs of the individual members of that team. So there are a couple of advantages and disadvantages that are worth very quickly covering. So firstly, the model is super simple to understand. And another advantage is it gives us a simple mechanism to improve performance by changing the rewards on offer. But it has got a few disadvantages you should be aware of too. So firstly, the model can be overly simplistic. It doesn't explain why sometimes as humans we act against our own best interests. Secondly, external factors are completely ignored from the model. So for example, someone with problems in their personal life might underperform no matter what the reward on offer. And finally, the model can be difficult to get up and running in larger organizations where the reward is not directly correlated to an individual's performance, but rather to overall company performance. So, in summary, expectancy theory is a theory of motivation in the workplace. It states that an individual within your team will be motivated when they believe they can hit their targets, they know they will be rewarded for hitting those targets, and they value the reward they will receive. Now, by motivating all team members in this way, you can create highly motivated individuals and thus high-performing teams. Now, examples of how to improve behavior and performance include setting stretch targets with rewards attached, rewarding desirable behaviors, and linking the reward closely to each individual's wants and desires. So that's it from me. Really hope you enjoyed this lesson, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon.